Drift had wasted no time after witnessing the stone's behavior and requested a ship from Skyfleet for the next 3 or 4 days. They gave him use of a Skyrunner-class ship, the Monica, one of the faster classes of ships in Skyfleet's arsenal. He had ensured that Lamenith would be taken care of and asked Tristran, one of his most promising students, to tend to her needs and help guide her in these first few days. He did not want to leave so suddenly, but he knew he had to act fast. The platform was already alive when Drift arrived. Wind tore across the stone, snapping banners hard against their poles, voices half lost in the constant rush of air. People moved in tight clusters, messengers, nobles, handlers, each giving the moored ship a wide berth, as though proximity alone demanded respect. The Monica waited at the edge, long, lean, restless. Its dark Kevlar spine ran beneath the hull like a blade barely sheathed, faint heat shimmering along its length. The sails were half loosed already, rigging humming with tension, crew moving with sharp, practiced urgency. No ceremony, no delay. Drift didn't slow. "Ready?" he called as he crossed the boarding ramp. A deck officer glanced once, took him in, and nodded.
Aye, we are, Master Drift. We will be away in seconds.
Good. Then let's not hang around. Time is our biggest enemy here.
The ramp was already rising behind him.
Heat the keel!
The order cut through the wind. Below deck, the Kevlar answered. A low, deep hum rolled through the ship, felt more than heard, as warmth bled into the spine. The air around the hull shimmered, faint at first, then stronger.
Lines clear! Rigging free! Release!
The Monica didn't leap. It let go. Stone fell away beneath them as the ship eased free of the platform, drifting for a breathless moment in open air. Then the sails caught. Wind slammed into canvas. The ship surged forward.
Angle her up, 10 degrees.
The bow lifted. Damarkus spread below them, twin spires cutting into the sky, platforms stacked with movement and light, the city stretching outward in ordered layers of stone and life. It was already falling away, faster than it should, faster than it felt possible. Drift braced against the rail as the wind strengthened, pulling at his coat, dragging the breath from his chest.
How long?
He asked. The helmsman didn't look at him.
If we catch the current, if Ashwin by this time tomorrow.
Drift's jaw tightened.
That's not good enough.
They climbed higher. Clouds thickened around them, then broke, and beyond, the sky changed. It wasn't visible, not directly, not like a road or a river, but you could feel it. A steady pull, a direction, a force that didn't shift or falter. The sails snapped full, the ship accelerated. Not a sudden burst, but a deep, sustained surge, like something vast had taken hold of them and refused to let go.
There! We've got it!
The deck came alive, not with panic, but precision. Lines tightened, angles adjusted, every movement small, controlled, exact. They had found the current. The roar of the wind settled into a constant driving force. The ship no longer fought, it rode. Below, the land shifted. Green plains gave way to broken ridges. Rivers cut silver lines through shadow. Distant mountains began to rise like teeth on the horizon. Drift barely noticed. Once the Monica had caught the current, Drift went below decks to his quarters, sat down, and took the stone out again. The stone had changed from the vibrant colors he had seen just hours before. Now it was blackened, brittle and dry. Drift ran his thumb over the edge of the stone, only for it to crumble slightly against his touch. Drift sat in silence for quite some time, just staring at the stone. In his head, he was making all sorts of calculations and hypotheses, but he spoke none out loud, nor did he document them by writing it down. Eventually, his thoughts strayed to Lamenith. This was not ideal. Her did not want to leave her so quickly, and it was certainly not planned for. Drift tried to think more positively, and told himself that she needed time to adjust and get used to life in this new setting. But some things did trouble him. Her memory in the weave was fractured at best. She seemed to be coherent in some matters, yet distant with others. Realizing he might not know what the weave was, told him she understood there was many worlds it connects to, and she could recall her name with ease, but her recollection of past events was non-existent. Drift put the stone away and sighed, then slowly rose from his chair and lay down upon the bed. He lay for what seemed hours, as his mind raced with all sorts of questions, but slowly, tiredness caught up with him, and he closed his eyes and fell asleep.
Captain!
A voice, sharp with urgency.
Mountains ahead!
Drift was awoken, but the shouts of crewmen above decks, sprung to his feet and rushed onto the foredeck. The mountains were close, far closer than they had any right to be. The mountains ahead, dark, jagged, rising fast. The helmsman swore under his breath.
We've ridden it too long.
Drift stepped forward.
Then we leave it. Now.
The current still pulled, strong, insistent. Leaving it meant losing speed, losing time.
We'll drift past Ashwine if we don't.
Drift said, voice low but cutting.
Make the turn.
The order snapped through the deck.
Break from current!
Sails shifted. Lines screamed. The ship resisted. For a moment, just a moment, it felt like they were trying to turn a force far larger than themselves. Then, the grip released. The change was immediate. Speed bled away. The roar of the wind faded to something heavier, thicker. The ship felt weighted, alive in a different way.
Easy, easy.
They angled down. Clouds swallowed them whole. They broke through into mist. Below, a vast, dark expanse. Still, silent, endless. Lake Ashwine. It didn't shimmer like other waters. It absorbed the light. This lake was deep. Drift stared at it, something tightening in his chest.
Bring us down.
The ship obeyed. Slow now, deliberate. The rush of the sky gone, replaced by something far more ominous.
Master Drift, you want her wet moored, or you want us on standby? If we land in that lake, it will take a few hours to get the Keflor back up to temperature.
Drift smiled and looked over the side of the ship and pointed to a landmass to their east.
No. We can head for that bit of land over there. I will walk from there, but please, stand ready for the journey back.
The helmsman turned the well, and the Monica swung around and made its way to the play Drift had pointed to. The helmsman brought the ship to standstill about 30 feet off the ground, then swung the small crane out over the side. This had a small platform lined with Keflor to give it buoyancy. Drift stepped onto the platform and held onto the guide ropes. The navigator then channeled some of his energy to manipulate the temperature in the platform, and it began to lower itself to the ground gently. Drift stepped off the platform and looked up to the ship with a wave to indicate he was clear of the platform. Then he swung his backpack over one shoulder and headed towards the tree line. Drift spent about 20 minutes walking through the forest that lined the edge of the lake, and whilst he was following no discernible path, he seemed to know exactly where he was going. The trees here were well spaced, and there was not too much undergrowth to impede his progress. The lake itself was one of the deepest lakes in Damarkus, and was shrouded in mystery and legend. Some say all manner of beasts lived within these waters, and it was very possible. The lake itself was nearly 200 miles east to west, and around 150 miles north to south at its widest point. Nobody seemed to know how deep it was, but it was deep, very deep. As for the beasts within it, Drift knew there were some, but not exactly. But he did know that the mighty dragon of light, Deltheniel, fell here in battle against the shadow dragon Vesrin. He knew this because he saw it. He was there all those years ago. Drift now made a turn and left the lakeside to move deeper into the forest. And in just a few minutes, the place seemed to change. The trees were older, more misshapen. It felt colder here, and the birdsong he had been listening to now felt more distant, more of an echo to it. He knew he was close. Drift moved deeper, and the light that once shone brightly in golden shafts through the canopy now had less impact. Particles of dust and blossom hung in the air more, as if time was slowing down. But Drift was stopped dead in his tracks by a loud squelching noise underfoot. Looking down, he saw that the forest floor that was once firm but leafy under him had changed suddenly to a muddy floor about ankle deep. But this was no mud that he was familiar with. This was black and oily. Drift stopped and looked around him, and his eyes narrowed.
This is not meant to happen.
No, it's not, came a reply. Drift blinked and snapped around in the direction of the voice, his eyes instantly relaxing, as if seeing a familiar face after some time. Ilir, I rather hoped you might have found your way here. The man stepped forward, carefully so as not to slip in the mud. He was of average height, about 5 feet 10 inches, long, brown, lightly unkempt hair, and had the look of a well-traveled man in his 50s. He wore suitable traveling garments and a backpack, a hunting knife and short sword at his side. Hoped? Well, I didn't have much choice. I felt this from a very long way away. Drift did not question this. Ilir was a weave walker, and they walked paths many do not see or even know of. Both men said nothing, but now walked carefully side by side through the trees, which were now tightening around them, more twisted, older, making them bend and grab branches for support, and as they traveled deeper, the mud got thicker and deeper, now up to their shins. Then both saw what they had come for, and stopped dead in their tracks. It can't be. But it is, replied Ilir cautiously. Before both men stood a tangled mass of branches that formed a rudimentary archway. This would not be so easily spotted if the branches were covered in leaves and foliage, but these were not. The back, the trunks and branches were covered in a black, oily film that appeared to have rotted the wood completely. Drift reached out cautiously and wiped his fingers over one of the closer branches. The oil filmy came away in his fingers, and parts of the bark with it, and the wood under it. The wood was soft, saturated. The Weavegate. It's gone. Ilir did the same as Drift and examined the oily substance. This is not natural. Or maybe it is. Drift glanced to the weave walker.
It is?
Ilir nodded slightly, not taking his eyes off the substance on his fingers. I have seen this before, though not this much, I grant you. Drift frowned. He only knew of a small handful of gates in Damarkus, and this was the first he knew of to exhibit this behavior.
Here? In Damarkus?
Ilir never lifted his gaze, seemingly lost in thoughts. Weaver walkers often did this. It was always hard to tell if they were here or somewhere else. No. And yes. Drift frowned.
That's not helpful, Ilir. Focus. I'm not gifted like you. Bring it down a level or two.
When I walk the weave, I have seen this in worlds where the gates are weak. This is usually where worlds have grown beyond the realms of what the weave defines, and the weave severs contact. It's like oil and water don't mix, and the gate simply vanishes. Drift listened closely.
Beyond what the weave defines.
He lingered on that thought. Ilir must mean when a world gets too advanced. He knew that the weave was raw and primitive, and as a world matured and got more advanced, the weave would weaken there. He knew this because he was one of the hidden few that gently tweaked Damarkus over time so it did not advance any further for that very reason. I have also seen this in the unstable gates. You know, the gates that spring up randomly and then go again in hours or days. These are unstable, and they leave a similar product. Drift was aware of these unstable gates, but had never seen one. They were the things that only weave walkers knew about. No normal man or woman could predict a temporary gate, but weave walkers could.
But this doesn't make sense. This is not an unstable or unhealthy gate. The gates don't fail. They never fail.
They do now. This sent a shiver down Drift's spine. They do now. Those words echoed something similar in his past. The great battle. Drift shook it off and struggled a few steps forward.
What of the other gates?
Drift asked. Well, the Elder Gate is intact. I used it to get here. I haven't been to the others yet, but I suspect they are healthy. Others. Drift paused on that word. He knew of 3, Lake Ashwine, the Eldar, and the Old Gate. But the Old Gate was lost and no longer working. But other than this, he knew of no more. Something happened here. Something that the other gates haven't experienced. Can you shed any light on this, Drift? Drift paused, then sighed.
Lamenith.
Who?
Lamenith.
Drift spoke her name again.
She was discovered here. Well, not far from here. She came through this gate.
Ilir paused and gave Drift a thoughtful stare. You're not telling me everything, Drift. You don't just find people. You were expecting her, weren't you? Drift scratched himself behind his ear and wrinkled his nose. He always did this when he knew he had been caught out. Yes, Drift begrudgingly answered. Who is she? Ilir pushed.
I don't know, really, Ilir. I genuinely don't know.
You think she's part of the prophecy, don't you? Ilir interrupted.
The official annals never make any mention of a prophecy.
Drift replied. Ilir laughed gently to himself. Drift, I'm not your average Damarkan merchant. I'm one of the Guardians, one of 8 that keep the North contained. Drift sighed and conceded.
You are. Okay, yes. I have the hidden annals in my tower and they speak of the prophecy. But it was never clear who or what would come.
So how did you know the time was right? Drift took out his pouch wand, unfastened the opening to reveal the now badly fractured stone pyramid.
This.
Ilir struggled closer to take a look at what Drift was holding. Not much left of that. What is it?
In the great battle, I created a gate, but anchored it to nothing. After the battle was over and the gate had closed, I found this stone left behind. I did not know what it was, but I knew it was of importance.
Impossible, Ilir replied. You can't create a gate without anchoring it to something. It just isn't possible. Drift nodded thoughtfully.
I know, or at least I know now, but in truth, I don't know what it anchored to. It was a desperate move, Ilir. I had to try.
That's a dangerous game, Drift. You don't know what it's anchored to, and wherever it's anchored means other things can travel through also.
I know.
Drift tried to defend himself.
Like I said, I know now, but I didn't back then. I was much younger, and I will stand by what I did. It had to be done, or we would not be here as free people today.
Ilir said nothing, but nodded in acknowledgement. So this stone, why now?
It started to change its properties.
Drift replied.
Over the last week or two, the stone started to heat up. Then it gave out a soft glow. And when Lamenith eventually got closer to it, this happened.
How did you know what gate she was coming through? Ilir was now fully engaged.
I didn't. I had the elves watch the Eldar gate and the Eldar ship Lakanza to monitor this gate. When Lamenith appeared, I asked the nearest ship to intercept and collect the passenger.
And you didn't cover the rest? You're very lucky she didn't slip through your fingers, Drift.
What others?
Drift asked, slightly frustrated now.
I know of the old gate, but it's lost. Nobody knows its exact location, and it's dead. It hasn't worked for as long as we have written history as far as I know. And Skyfleet can't reach where it's thought to be. It's too cold, and it's on an island, so it's self-contained. It was a location we could explore later. But what others?
Ilir nodded to Drift's assessment. Well, there are quite a few, but they are minor gates. Most are about the size of a chest and not easily discovered even by a trained weave walker. Drift said nothing, but cast his eyes around the dead gate once more.
Will it regenerate?
I doubt it. I cannot sense anything. There is no gate. In fact, there is a distinct emptiness here now. But Drift, this girl, she is dangerous. She has literally drained and destroyed one of the most powerful and stable gates in Damarkus.
Yes, you're right. But this is complicated now. Do we send her back?
Ilir gave this some thought. She is not aligned. At least that is what I feel this is. The weave is very raw and primal in many aspects, but it is also very complicated in the layers and pathways it creates. If she is indeed weave-born, then it's not because the weave did this as a conscious choice. The weave doesn't do that. It evolves, and she is one of those natural evolutions. And it's clear she is not made to pass through a gate. She was made just to exist. I would argue the weave doesn't even know she exists.
Then what is her purpose?
Does she need one? Ilia answered. I'm sure the weave didn't create her with a specific purpose. But maybe that's not how it works. Maybe you will discover her purpose. But right now she is unstable, and in her current state she is not safe for herself or the rest of this world. She is a disaster waiting to unravel. You need to get her realigned.
How do we do this? Take her to another gate?
Right now she lives in at least 2 different worlds, and her very existence is tearing the fabric of this world ever so slightly, whilst both parts of her try to merge. Get her to a gate, and you might be able to make her whole. Drift frowned. He didn't like this idea, but there was little choice in the matter.
Then I must make best possible speed and return. What will you do now?
I will travel and meet up with Kale and Sarah, 2 other guardians.
The ranger and the wild mage?
Ilia nodded.
I must return to Damarkin and prepare Lamenith for this news.
Aye, good plan. But Drift, before we part ways, I need to talk to you about the gates.